Every single night, a hidden physical transformation happens inside your skull that is nothing short of a biological miracle. While your consciousness fades, your brain cells literally shrink. They reduce their size to open up hidden fluid superhighways that didn't exist while you were awake. This triggers a high-pressure wash cycle, flushing out toxic proteins that, if left to accumulate, are directly linked to Alzheimer's, dementia, and chronic brain fog. But here is the problem. For most of us, this wash cycle is broken. We are sleeping, but we aren't cleaning. Modern neuroscience calls this the glymphatic system. Ancient traditions called it the state of deep, conscious rest. Today, we are going to bridge the gap between the two. We will look at the exact mechanics of this brainwashing system, why your sleeping position might be blocking it, and how an ancient practice called yoga nidra can manually toggle the switch to detoxify your brain. This is the science of the night. Welcome to the rinse cycle. To understand the solution, we first have to understand the unique architectural problem of the human brain. Think of your body as a house. If you spill a drink in the kitchen, which represents your muscles or liver, the liquid is mopped up by the lymphatic system. This is your body's sewage network, a series of vessels that run alongside your blood vessels, carrying waste to the lymph nodes to be filtered and removed. But for centuries, anatomists were baffled because the brain, the most metabolically active organ you possess, has no lymphatic vessels. It is a biological paradox. Your brain consumes about 20% of your body's total energy, despite only weighing 3 pounds. High energy consumption means high waste production. It produces massive amounts of metabolic trash, including a sticky protein called amyloid beta and another called tau. If the brain doesn't have lymphatic vessels, where does the trash go? For a long time, we thought the brain just recycled it. We were wrong. This is the biological glitch we face today. When amyloid beta builds up, it forms plaques. These plaques strangle neurons and block communication. This is the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. But even in the short term, before any disease sets in, the failure to clear this waste results in that heavy, foggy feeling you have when you wake up. You aren't just tired. Your brain is literally dirty. It is congested with metabolic sewage. So, how does the brain clean itself without a drain pipe? It turns out, it builds a temporary one every night. Enter the glymphatic system. Discovered relatively recently, this system changed everything we know about brain health. The name comes from glia, the brain's support cells, and lymphatic. Here is how the plumbing works. It is an engineering masterpiece. Your brain floats in a clear liquid called cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF. During the day, this fluid sits on the outside, cushioning the brain. But when you enter deep, slow-wave sleep, something incredible happens. The levels of norepinephrine, the stress chemical that keeps you alert, plummet. When norepinephrine drops, your brain cells, specifically the glial cells, actually shrink in size. This creates a massive expansion of the interstitial space, the empty space between your cells. Research shows this space expands by 60 to 90%. Imagine a dense forest where the trees are so close together you can't walk between them. That is your awake brain. Now, imagine the trees suddenly shrinking, creating wide paths. That is your sleeping brain. Once these paths open, the cerebrospinal fluid rushes in. It flows along what we call periarterial spaces, channels that run alongside your arteries. It pumps deep into the brain tissue, mixing with the interstitial fluid that holds the waste. It grabs the amyloid beta, the tau proteins, and other metabolic byproducts, and then flushes them out along the veins, eventually dumping them into the body's main circulatory system to be eliminated. This isn't a trickle, it's a power wash. This system is up to 9 times more active during sleep than than when you are awake. But here is the catch. It doesn't happen during just any sleep. It requires specific conditions. It requires the deep, slow-wave delta phase of sleep to fully activate. If you are sleeping lightly, or if your sleep architecture is fragmented, the doors don't open, the trees don't shrink, the waste stays trapped. This brings us to a fascinating intersection. Modern science tells us we need deep, slow-wave states for this cleaning to happen. Ancient traditions, thousands of years ago, didn't have MRI machines, yet they developed specific rituals to induce exactly this state of deep, physiological rest. This brings us to the ancient bridge. For millennia, yogic traditions have practiced a technique called yoga nidra, often translated as yogic sleep. Historically, this was viewed as a spiritual practice, a way to traverse the layers of the self. But when we hook a practitioner of yoga nidra up to an EEG machine, we see something that aligns perfectly with glymphatic science. Yoga nidra is not just napping. It is a systematic protocol that drops the brain from beta waves, your awake analytical state, down through alpha and into theta and delta. Delta waves, oscillating at a slow 0.5 to 4 Hertz, are the signature of deep, restorative sleep. Remember, the glymphatic system needs that drop in norepinephrine and the dominance of the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode, to open the floodgates. While there is no direct evidence yet that yoga nidra mechanically pumps CSF in the same way a full night of sleep does, the indirect evidence is compelling. Yoga nidra reliably increases delta wave activity and enhances parasympathetic dominance. It mimics the biological environment required for the brain to clean itself. Think of it as a manual override. In our modern world, we are stuck in sympathetic overdrive. High stress, high cortisol, high norepinephrine. This keeps the brain cells swollen and the cleaning channels clamped shut. By using a practice like yoga nidra to force a parasympathetic shift, you are essentially unlocking the doors to the cleaning crew. It improves slow-wave sleep percentage and sleep efficiency. By practicing this state of conscious rest, you are training your brain to enter the specific frequency where detoxification is maximized. You are preparing the terrain for the nightly purge. But frequency and chemical balance are only half the equation. The other half is pure physics. It's about gravity and geometry. We have covered the chemical trigger, norepinephrine drop, and the electrical trigger, delta waves. Now we must discuss the mechanical facilitator, your sleep position. If you want to optimize this waste clearance, how you lie in bed matters more than you think. Researchers, including teams at the University of Rochester and Stony Brook University, used dynamic contrast-enhanced MRI to watch this CSF flow in real time in rodents. They compared 3 positions: prone, on the stomach, supine, on the back, and lateral, on the side. The results were statistically undeniable. The lateral position, sleeping on your side, proved to be consistently more efficient for glymphatic transport than sleeping on the back or stomach. Why? It comes down to fluid dynamics and gravity. The layout of the carotid arteries and the venous drainage system in the neck seems to align best when the head is in a lateral position, allowing for less resistance to the flow of influx and efflux. The fluid can move through the brain tissue with greater ease. Interestingly, this aligns with evolutionary behavior. Most animals, and indeed most humans in the wild, naturally curl up on their sides to sleep. It is the default setting for a reason. Sleeping on your back, while good for spinal alignment in some cases, can impede venous drainage and often exacerbates sleep apnea, which fragments sleep and stops the glymphatic process entirely. So, the protocol for the ultimate brain detox combines these elements. First, we prioritize the induction of the state. Using a brief yoga nidra or non-sleep deep rest (NSDR) protocol before bed helps downregulate the nervous system, dropping norepinephrine and inviting those delta waves. Second, we prioritize the mechanics. We adopt the lateral sleeping position. Whether it is the right or left side seems to matter less than simply being on the side, though some studies suggest the right side might favor cardiac function, further assisting the pumping mechanism. You are essentially positioning the tank, your brain, so that gravity helps the drain, the veins, work faster. When you combine these factors, you initiate the purge. During those first few hours of sleep, as you lock into that side position and your brain waves slow to a crawl, the magic happens. The interstitial space opens up. The CSF, like a river, washes through the neural tissue. It picks up the amyloid beta plaques that have been forming all day from your intense thinking and stress. It flushes out the tau proteins. This is not just about avoiding Alzheimer's decades from now. This is about tomorrow morning. When the glymphatic system works efficiently, you wake up with what we call a clean slate. The metabolic friction is gone. Your cognitive processing speed is faster. Your emotional regulation is better because the neurotoxins that irritate the nervous system have been washed away. If you have ever woken up feeling like your head is filled with cotton wool, you have experienced glymphatic failure. You slept, but you didn't purge. We often think of sleep as a passive shutdown, a waste of time. But we now know it is an active metabolic necessity. It is the only time your brain can take out the trash. By combining the ancient wisdom of down-regulating the nervous system with the modern understanding of fluid dynamics and sleep posture, you can protect your most valuable asset. Don't let your brain sit in its own waste tonight. Lie on your side, slow your breath, and let the rinse cycle begin. If you found this valuable, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into human physiology. I'll see you in the next one.